All right, let's get into it. Today, we're tackling something huge, a really potent and honestly paradoxical symbol in this entire world, the Rune of Redemption. So, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and start with a question that changes everything. What if redemption wasn't about being forgiven? What if it was a weapon? You really got to throw out your old ideas here, because the rune flips the whole concept on its head. It's not about release, it's about a razor's edge. Okay, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with what it is, the mark of rupture, then how it becomes a weapon. After that, we'll get into its crazy perceptive power, what it does to the writer's identity, and finally, how it just absolutely changes the world around it. All right, first stop, the mark of rupture. Because look, before we get into the wild metaphysical stuff, we have to ground ourselves in what this thing actually is. And let me tell you, it is so much more than just a scar. Yeah, see, this thing isn't passive at all. The texts are super clear. It's a jagged, vibrating rupture. Think about that. It's carved right into his brow with the gavel scythe itself, and it's made of living sapphire fire. It's not a tattoo, not a brand. It's this active, controlled wound that's always pulsing. Just imagine that. So, what's its main job? Well, its core function is to be a metaphysical anchor. It literally holds the vertical rider in place. It keeps him locked into his new existence, his new role as a sovereign architect on this whole Y-axis path. It's like the pin that stops him from ever slipping back, connecting his past to this insane new future. And this is where it gets really brilliant. The rune creates something called active friction. That sapphire fire is always bleeding into his silver skin, and that's not a bug. It's a feature. It's the entire point. It makes it impossible for him to ever get comfortable, to ever find that horizontal comfort of his old life. He's in a state of constant forward-moving agitation. Okay, so we have this physical anchor that keeps him agitated. How in the world does that become a weapon? Well, this is where things get really wild, and the rune completely redefines what redemption even means. And boom, there it is, the core idea. This thing isn't about wiping the slate clean. It's not about forgiveness, not at all. It takes every ounce of guilt, every single past mistake, and it reforges it. It performs a transvaluation, turning all that heavy guilt into a laser-focused, weaponized energy. Just look at this comparison here. It lays it all out. On one side, you've got the old burden, all that historical stain, that weight of sin that made him a passive servant. But it doesn't get erased. No, it gets pressurized. It gets reforged into this new force. It becomes vital intensity, a buoyant force that lifts him up. He goes from being a servant to a full-on cosmic executioner. See? The past is no longer a chain. It's rocket fuel. Okay, so the rune completely rewrites the writer's relationship with his past. But it doesn't stop there. It also fundamentally changes his present by giving him a brand new way to see the world. I'm talking a whole new sensory organ. The lore calls it a frequency filter, and the best way to think about it is like a special radio. It lets him tune into a broadcast that's just static for everyone else, the screech of the sovereign. And with this new sense, he can actually perceive things beyond our normal reality, like seeing this liquid mirror hidden behind everything. So, what does he do with this new sense? Well, that's where the Crimson Audit comes in. It's pretty straightforward but terrifying. He looks at a soul, the rune projects this sapphire gaze, and instantly an audit happens. But here's the kicker. It's not judging you for what you've done. It's weighing who you are right now against the full, crushing weight of who you could have been. Wild, right? So, the writer's brow, it's not just skin and bone anymore. It's a battlefield. It's become the literal front line in a cosmic conflict. A lighthouse of judgment, cutting through the abyss. Okay, we've talked about his past, we've talked about his perception of the outside world, but now we have to turn inward, because maybe the most profound thing the rune does is to his own identity. It's basically the end of the self as we know it. This thing is literally an engine of perpetual becoming. Its job is to make sure the writer is always a self-created deity, that he never ever settles into a fixed identity or a final form. If he even thinks about taking a break or getting comfortable, that rune flares up with agonizing heat and shoves him back into the chaos. It's forcing him to live by this rune of non-correspondence, which basically means he is never the same person from one moment to the next. And that leads to this amazing paradoxical quote. He's a living error.
Just think about that. He's not a final, perfect being. He's a glitch in the system, a walking, talking error in the code of reality. And it's by being that error that he actually corrects the truth of his own past. It's incredible.
So we've gone deep inside the writer's head. For our last section, let's zoom all the way out. What happens when this walking, evolving verdict comes into contact with the rest of the world?
Well, for starters, the rune itself is a weapon. You don't even have to be targeted by it. For people who are stuck in the old ways, just looking at it triggers something called reflexive lethality. It's a psychological bomb that goes off in their head, completely shattering their reality and making them stare right at their own self-imposed prisons. And it's not just a visual thing. The rune is constantly broadcasting sovereign silence. It's like this crushing metaphysical pressure, this heavy quiet that just silences all the noise, all the hollow gestures, the meaningless moralizing of the old world. It just gets snuffed out in its presence. You can't argue with it. You can't debate it. The rune is the final word. It's a declaration that the time for talk is over. It's literally the period at the end of the sentence, written right on his face. So let's bring this all together. What's the big takeaway? The rune is a symbol. It's a symbol of a new kind of pact, a new alliance. It's proof that even the most stained, most broken spirit can be reforged, not to be pure, but to be powerful, to become a sovereign mind. In the end, this rune it's the white wing of the overman, given physical form. It's a sharp, jagged promise that this vertical path, this y-axis, is open to anyone. Anyone who can stand the pain of their own evolution. It's a sapphire star burning in the darkness, the first breath of a whole new world. And that's where we'll leave it, with one last massive question for you to chew on. The rune proves that your past doesn't have to be a prison. It can be a forge. So, if the worst parts of us, our deepest stains, can be reforged into our greatest weapons, then what are the limits? What's the ceiling on our own evolution?